I see a lot of people struggling with how to manage their money.
They aren't keeping track of how much money is coming in and how much is going out.
Most kids don't know how to handle money.
I'm a big spender, not much of a saver, and I think if I had seen something modeled differently earlier, then I probably would have a different relationship with money.
I think World of Money gives them that basis, that financial literacy that they need.
World of Money is a youth financial education training institute. It operates Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:45 in July of each year.
We go in the morning, we meet with our classroom leader.
Each day is different and each day has a theme and focus. So some days we'll be talking about banking, other days we'll be talking about stocks and bonds.
I did learn a lot about credit scores,
401ks,
gaining interest on money, making your money work for you,
how to save your money,
checkings accounts and savings accounts,
and yeah, how to live a better life.
My name is William Law. Handling money is a big responsibility, and it should be held in the hands of a responsible person.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I feel like I just graduated from business school, like real university business school.
Just having role models like that come and share their knowledge with us is one example between, learning, gaining success, and then giving back.
And it's just a straight long sign.
Also, one of the cool things that our students learn is Mandarin Chinese.
The 5 tenets of World of Money is learn, earn, save, invest, and donate.
It's helped me become more aware of how much I'm spending and how much I'm saving and how much I'm giving.
It's more about, yes, you had an opportunity to earn the money. Now, what do you do to improve the lives of those that are around you and, the future generations?
You need to give us your resources, whether that's money or your time, and that's more important than anything.
We have visited the White House about 3 times. Our Young Mogul Board of Directors joined me as I testified on Capitol Hill to talk to Congress about financial education. We've opened or closed the NASDAQ Stock Exchange 4 times. We were on CNBC, we have been on MSNBC, we have appeared on ABC, NBC.
I feel like financial literacy is one of the key components in life. No matter what career path you choose, you will definitely have to encounter finance or any type of financial components in your life, such as, whenever you're making your first purchase for your home, which was discussed during the workshops.
Moguls and young moguls, I dare you to become financially successful.
Miss Lamb dreams us to be ambitious, and I think that the tools that she gives us at World of Money are helpful in making sure that those ambitions can be sustained.
After becoming a billionaire, I will invest my money in charities to build schools worldwide that will teach finance.
It's an amazing program. It's done so much more than just teach me about money. It's taught me about being professional, about working hard, about success.
It's worth the time and worth the energy, and I think that your children one day will thank you for it.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Father's Day weekend. My name is Sabrina Lamb, and I am the founder and the CEO of the World of Money, and I am really excited today. Today, our focus is, it's Welcome World of Money's The Future of Your Money Town Hall Series, and I'm really excited today to listen and learn from today's discussion. A gathering of men talk money. Hashtag Men Talk Money at World of Money. Our special dads are joining us from around the country to engage in transparent, keeping it real conversation, inspirational, personal, dropping some information for you regarding money and related issues. During this interactive forum, we want you to post in the chat below of your screen where you're joining us from, and then later post your questions and your comments. Now today, because this is Father's Day weekend, I think it should be Father's Day year, okay? I pay tribute to my father, Willie J. Lamb, who was a highly decorated military officer, and I miss him every single day. What I learned from my father is, I remember when we were living in Germany, and we would drive from Nuremberg to Würzburg, and I'm a fourth grader, and I'm sitting in the back of the car, and he would hand me the map, and he would say, Sabrina, tell me which direction we should go. Doing that on all of our trips, my father taught me that there was no place that I have the absolute right to be, and there's no place that I can't go, and there's nothing that I can't achieve. So thank you, Daddy. I call him my daddy, for teaching me how to walk like I own this earth. So thank you for all of our dads, our fathers, for providing and protecting all of us. So we have a lot of special dads today. I'm looking forward to introducing them to you. So here we go. So our first special dad is Mr. Barry Simmons. He is a managing director, East Division director for Chase Wealth Management at JP Morgan Chase. Joining us all the way from Los Angeles, California. Welcome, special dad, Barry.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you. Our next special dad is Mr. Robert Johnson. Robert is the Chief Inclusion Officer and General Counsel for the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. Joining us from Chicago, welcome, Robert.
Hey, sorry, the camera's not working, but I'm here. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be with you. Having a little technical difficulties with the camera.
Well, we'll get that fixed. And then next we have, our next special dad is Mr. Joseph Edmondson. Now, Joseph is a certified planner with Capital Management Group of New York. So joining us from New York City, welcome, Joseph.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Excited about the dialogue today. And of course, shout out to all my people in the BX.
And our next special dad is Mr. Dewan Neal. He is a highly regarded Wall Street finance attorney, joining us all the way from the ATL, that's Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Dewan Neal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sabrina, thank you for that warm introduction. Very excited to be here.
And last but not least is Mr. Mickey Fax, renowned hip hop artist. The world keeps all of his appearances on Funk Master Flex's Hot 97, especially when he drops those bars. So you didn't know that I knew that lingo, right? When he drops those bars, and particularly that one on Credit. So Mickey has also taught at World of Money, but now we're eagerly awaiting Enigma, his new album. And joining us from the world is Mr. Mickey Fax.
Hey, I know you can hear me. I'm trying to figure out how to.
Okay, we'll fix all of that. Now, a brochure with all of our special dads' detailed bios is going to be available in the chat very soon. Now, the host for this discussion is Mr. Darren Simon. Darren is a business development manager at the Energy Infrastructure Solutions. He also serves on the board of the World of Money's parent executive board. Welcome, Mr. Darren Simon. Darren, take it away.
Hey, Sabrina, thank you very much, and welcome to our virtual town hall, Men Talking Money. To our distinguished guests, thank you very much for your participation today. And we're looking for a great session of just talking guys, as though we were in a barbershop. We're just going to kick it for a little while and just talk about different aspects regarding fatherhood and finances and wealth building and the like. Before we jump in, I just wanted to take a few seconds here just to say thank you to my father, Henry Simon, who has shown me what it means to be a man, a loving father and husband, and just by his day-to-day works, just being able to watch him as a role model has helped me so much in my life and continues to do so. Dad, you were my best man at my wedding, and you'll always be my best man. Love you dearly. And with that, gentlemen, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
I think I'm ready. Darren, you said something about us keeping it, fairly casual, like we're in the barber shop. Unfortunately, I can't remember the last time I was in a barber shop.
You are so right with that. And where I am, my barbershops actually open in New Jersey on Monday. So
okay.
You know where I'll be.
Well, this is a good warm up for you. We're getting you ready for Monday.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we jump into the financial aspects that we're going to spend some time on, I was hoping that we could step back and just take a look at some basics. And I'm interested from the panel, what is your definition of fatherhood?
Hey, well, look, I'll get us started, Darren. Really excited to be here. So again, I am a father of two 10-year-old boys. They just actually had their birthday on Thursday, Cannon and Cole, and a shout out to my baby girl, my princess Sage, who's 5 years old. And to me, being a father and the definition of fatherhood is all about being a provider, being a teacher, an educator, but most importantly, preparing our children to enter the world and have as much success by giving them exposure and experiences so they're able to deal with all the ups and downs and the adversity that comes with the world and comes with being an adult. So I take that responsibility very seriously. I think we learn every single day as dads and as fathers because there's no script, there's no playbook for it. But what we can do is just the best that we can to ensure that they've got good values, character, morals. In our household, we lead with integrity, we lead with inclusion, and we always focus on making sure that our kids are very intellectually curious, ask the questions so we can provide the whys. And I think as teachers, that's what dads really serve as that role model.
Excellent. Hey, let's keep it going, guys.
I mean, I'll piggyback off of it. My situation is a little different. And I think this helps having such a diverse panel. My son is 17 years old, just finished his 11th grade year, transitioning into his senior year of high school. And fatherhood has been an amazing experience for me, but a learning experience, right? So like I'm constantly teaching my son the things I want him to be able to carry into the world, but I'm also learning about myself. I'm learning about him. And I think that there's no feeling than watching your son evolve into a mature, responsible, aware young adult. And there are just so many components to fatherhood, right? Like we want our children to be studious, right? We want our children to have good manners. Some of us would like our children to be more than just intellectually stimulating, but also to be athletic for whatever reason. I mean, there are just so many ways to reach out and to connect with your child and then to actually track that evolution and that growth. So for me, fatherhood is really just about instilling the values and really trying to protect him from making the same mistakes. He's going to make mistakes, but let them be new mistakes that we can challenge and take on as a unit. Versus him doing some of the same things that I did when I was his age.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm probably one of the older brothers on the panel, just looking at the young, bright faces that are my panelists. But for me, fatherhood is, particularly in this age, around not just being a protector, but also sort of an evolution. I come from a generation of fathers, or was raised by a generation of fathers where children were seen and not heard. You sat at the kids' table, and I appreciate a lot of those old school values, but I think fathers now have evolved to being a lot more involved and hands-on than they may have been back in the day. It was just a kind of stoic dad that went out into the streets, got his money, brought it back home, went to bed, and just went back to work and didn't have a whole lot of interaction with the kids. At least those were the men that I saw in my community. They just grinded. And they were just always tired and didn't have time to play catch with the kids and all of that. So I know the men in my generation have tried to be a lot more intentional. And the fact that we're doing this, I think, what struck a lot of the fathers from back in the day is, I wouldn't say strange, but it wouldn't have been something that they probably would have spent their time on a Saturday doing. So I applaud the fact that fatherhood now has evolved to the point where I think we are more engaged because, last month for Mother's Day, you know, it was a big to do. You couldn't go into a restaurant if they were open, typically for Mother's Day. Tomorrow, you have it'd be pretty easy to get into a restaurant for Father's Day. We don't get the same amount of love as the mothers do. But I think the recognition that fathers do play an important role, and as men, us learning that and leaning into that and being sensitive enough to spend the time with a child, teaching them, not just telling them, but teaching them and showing them kind of shoulder to shoulder, because you are their first teacher. You are the first person that they look to for protection. And particularly young boys, they want to emulate their dads. And sometimes we don't necessarily connect the way we could. You know, we want to make them tough, but at the same time, you got to make them tender, because at some point they're going to hopefully, you know, start a family of their own, and you want them to be balanced. So for me, fatherhood is a real complex evolutionary period, particularly since I didn't really grow up with my father. So I'm figuring all of this stuff out on my own for the most part. And a lot of men find themselves in that predicament where they may not have had the benefit of a role model or some of the other folks on the call have had. And this is literally a everyday figure out.
Definitely. I'll go actually. So for me, my beautiful wife is actually expecting our first child, a beautiful daughter, in the next 2 months. So I'm getting prepared for that process.
Congratulations. Welcome to the club.
So I'm super excited about someone that's going to rule the household in a few months and probably for a few years. But I also have, nephews and nieces, and I've been mentoring a lot of young men of color in my community. And what I'm thinking about in raising my daughter is that I want her to, have integrity, to be ambitious, to work hard for everything that she's going to get. Fortunately for our daughter, she's not going to be in a situation like my wife and I, when we grew up, where there was very limited resources for us financially. My father wasn't in my life for most of my life. And so there wasn't financial help there, or just like the learning from another adult. So I'm looking forward to raising my daughter to, be able to ask questions, to teach her financially what are some of the things that she can do to build wealth from the minute that she can talk, to set up investment accounts for her and do a lot of other things, and just help her to be a great person in life and be that resource for her.
Yeah, and last but not least, the reason why I wanted to go last, I figured that I was the newest dad here, but congratulations to Joseph.
Thank you.
My son is 4.5 months old currently, so this is a very, very new experience for me. I'm learning as I go. I'm trying to implement some of the tactics that everyone here has been mentioning. I've been taking notes about his life daily. So when he turns 18, and he'll be able to read his life from the moment he was born, which was the day that Kobe Bryant died, January 26th, all the way up until he's 18. And I think that's something that I can probably speak for all of us here. It would be interesting if we could kind of see our lives from the time we were born up until now from our father's eyes. And that was something that I decided that I wanted to do every single day, write something, even if we just changed his diaper and he cried. I want him to be able to read about his life. As I've read so many biographies, a lot of the biographies, people really can't talk about their first 5 years of their life. So I want to be able to have my son to read about exactly what he went through, what the world was going through, what his father was going through, what he was thinking about every single day. So, that's my take on it.
Excellent.
Great.
What were some of your earliest memories of your father?
I could go first because I went last time. So I would definitely have to agree with Robert. My dad was a hard worker. He worked overnights, and he he's still with us. He's a post office worker. And the interesting thing that I admired about my father was that he was financially sound. Even though he was a post office worker, he spent hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years learning about finance. And that was something that I admired about him, especially I'm 37 years old now. So you can imagine what a young Black boy was experiencing in the late 80s to early 90s, and what the Black community was going through with the emergence of hip hop, and also what was happening, in the scene in the urban communities with drugs and the HIV running rampant. So to see a Black man working every day, going to work at night, and being home with us during the daytime, and still being able to purchase a home and cars and have 401ks and learn about stock and teach credit to me at such a young age, it was imperative for me and my mindset and my thinking. I would have liked a little bit more of an interaction with him. He was too tired to play some basketball with me at times, and I kind of resented that at that age. But as I've gotten older, I realized that he was laying a foundation for me to be a better man, to raise a family and to learn from the mistakes that he made by not being able to be there for me. And, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate him. He's definitely my best friend. We speak all the time, and the times that I wanted him to be that person for me at a younger age, he's doing that. He's overcompensating for that now at the age that I am, and I can understand why it happened that way. So I resonated with Robert's thought process and his experiences with fathers in the neighborhood around that time. So that's my earliest and constant and continuous memory of my dad.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my father was absolutely my role model. He was the person that I aspired to be. Very similar to Mickey, my father was very financially savvy. He was the first finance director for the city of New Orleans. He was involved in the corporate world at an early stage, and I watched him and I learned how he interacted and navigated in those circles, and had the networking and influence and different dinners and engagements. And I just saw how he would communicate. I saw, and he would teach us different ways where you had to leverage your skill sets in terms of what you should be looking for from an investment standpoint, how to spend money, when to spend money, what to look for in terms of investing. So to me, and I had him, unfortunately he's no longer here, but I did have him for the majority of my life and into my professional career. He was that person that I was emulating. He was, as Robert said, as a young man, what you look to be like. He was the role model. He was the footsteps that I was going to follow. So it's just very important. And I think this conversation is so important because the role of men and fathers in young Black men's lives, it really is truly, truly special. And I think we all have to understand that they're watching every single thing that we do, and the good habits as well as the bad. So when you focus on that introduction of money at an early age, it sticks, right? Because now look at the career that I'm in, and I'm leveraging still many of the tactics and strategies and communication and life lessons that I learned at such an early age just by watching him go to work every single day. And more importantly, the dinner table conversations that we would have each night. So without a doubt, he's my role model. I credit a lot of my success to him.
Yeah, I can go next. I'm sure many of you, since this is a money and a wealth conversation, are familiar with the book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I literally just thought of this, and I never thought of this in 50 years, but I had a similar Rich Dad, Poor Dad experience, and it literally just occurred to me. So my earliest memories of my father literally lived around the corner from me. As I said, I wasn't raised by my father. I was actually raised by my grandfather. So if I think about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my actual dad was my poor dad, and my grandfather was my rich dad. And just like in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there were lessons that I learned from both. And my actual dad, I was born out of wedlock, and my father was an alcoholic. And like I said, he lived right around the corner from me, and he made a lot of choices that obviously led him down a path that did not include any aspect of financial success. So the impact on me, as you said, most of us want to be like their father. The majority of my life was spent trying to be not like my father. So it was just, I saw the things that he did, and it motivated me to have this ridiculous drive to do just the opposite. Like I didn't touch a drink until I was in law school. It was like part of an initiation there. I was like 23 or something before I had my first drink, and never did a drug or anything because I just saw that the path that it took him down. Conversely, my grandfather, who was my rich dad, he was a steel worker, probably with an 8th grade education, but was one of the most brilliant men that I ever met in my life. And I do a lot of public speaking, and I always quote him when I first start my talks. The 2 things that he always said, that if a man could beat you, first of all, he said, common sense ain't common, everybody ain't got it. And if a man could beat you thinking, he could beat you living. And I saw that for him, he would get up literally, I don't know, at some ungodly hour, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. He wore a suit every day. And he, like I said, he worked in a steel mill. So he would wear a suit to the steel mill, somehow change clothes, get into whatever you wear in a steel mill, do 8 hours in grimy, dirty, whatever you do in a steel mill, shower, put the suit back on, come back home to work. He would hit the door. My grandmother and mother, who also lived with me, they would, food would start magically appearing. He would sit down in front of the TV. I would be there in front of the TV watching something. He would, without saying a word, as soon as he came in, I knew it was time for me to leave. He was going to turn on the Cubs or whatever it is he wanted to watch. And that was his thing. But I also watched him, similar to what was just said. He was a man in the community that everybody came to when they needed money, when they needed advice. Again, they came into our den. I saw everybody in the community at one point come in there and ask for his counsel. And him and my grandmother would listen to whatever it is that their issue was. I had to leave. He never made a decision right then and there. He said, okay, I'm gonna pray on it and I'll get back to you. And that was it. There was no more conversation. That was it. Once he said that, you were dismissed. You're gonna pray on it and he'll get back to you, whatever. And I just saw him, and he had this thing where he bought my grandmother a new car every 2 years, and he would take the old car. And I mean, it was just, when we grew up in what was considered a poor area, but I didn't know I was poor until I went to college. Didn't even realize it because just the work ethic, and we never wanted for everything, and just his presence as a Black man. And so that's who I emulated, my rich dad. So when I went to college, literally, first generation everything, but I wore suits to college. I carried a little briefcase as a freshman, didn't have anything in it but my lunch and then maybe a newspaper, but that's what I saw as a man, and that has driven me my entire life. It was my rich dad, which was my grandfather.
That's excellent, and I really appreciate you sharing. And at this time, just to transition a little bit here, we're going to watch a video from activist MC Mysone, which is a happy Father's Day tribute to his son.
Halo me with your bright old eyes. Your smile so big it can light up skies. I thank God every day for your birth, and I pray that he navigates your way through this earth. Your first steps, I can't wait for them. Any man who'll take care of his kids, I pray for him. Cause to me, that is a sin. Men teach, protect, and provide for their kin. Yeah, I said men. Boys shun responsibility, abandon ship, and run without no dignity. The joy that you've given me can't be explained. Sometimes I think of you and tears can't be contained. You came into this insane world perfect and pure, in a world so full of pain. So as you search and explore, you'll mature into a boy. As you formulate thoughts, the thoughts will turn to action. As you walk and you talk, people will disappoint. Truths will become lies. The more knowledge you gain, you'll see through the disguise. And I'll be here to guide, to wipe the tears from your eyes and the fear from your heart until I meet my demise. Them eyes will see reality. The friends will turn to enemies. Enemies will turn to friends, and love will turn to jealousy. But the memory of these things will make you stronger. All the shortcomings and disappointments will make you hunger the success, but never let that success kill your humanity. All morals, never put money before your family. I know you ain't understanding me, but you will one day. You'll separate the fake from the real one day. One day you'll understand the sacrifices I made so you can live in peace and not have to pay the prices I paid. I pray every day that your life's filled with joy, cause I'm so thankful I gave life to you, boy. Lord, let my little seed grow to a tree and be a way better man than me.
Beautiful.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
Great.
that is amazing, amazing. And picking up off of that, one of the questions that I had for the group that I'm interested in, as fathers, we're responsible for safety and security, for our families. And how does that translate into providing financial safety and security for your finances? So how does that look for you in the financial space?
Yeah, I can start on that one. So, in my role as a financial advisor and a certified financial planner, and just talking to clients on a day-to-day basis about their goals and what it is they want to do with their families, and myself now preparing for a daughter to come in this world, some of the things I'm thinking about now is that I want to make sure that I have funding for her to go to college and to get an education. So I'm establishing a 529 plan and setting that up and funding that so that she knows that she has money to go to college. I'm talking about, making sure that she understands our budget. And when she's, old enough to understand, she's going to be involved in the conversation, because I want her to understand how to run her financial household, how to make sure, in the words of World of Money, that she understands how to save, invest, donate, give back some of the money that she makes. And I'm looking forward to teaching her about that. I'm having conversations with my wife about the fact that, God forbid, if I didn't come home yesterday, I want to make sure that you guys are going to be protected and that you're going to be able to do everything that my income coming in would have allowed us to do as a family. So I'm in the process now of increasing my life insurance substantially so that, if I didn't come home yesterday, I know it's a hard conversation to have. I want to make sure that my wife has options for my daughter to live in a beautiful community, to make sure that she's going to be able to go to private school, and my wife so chooses to do that, to make sure that she's going to have money for her someday, hopefully her wedding, and getting a new car when she graduates from college. So we're having these conversations now, and I'm taking the action steps to do those things. And then also talk to my wife to tell her that, for my daughter, I don't want money that's going to be for her in a long term to be sitting in a savings account earning minimal interest. I want that money to be invested and to grow and to grow for her so that she can have access to something in the future. And I'm also in the process of talking to an estate attorney now, because now there's a conversation around getting wills and trust in place so that, if something did happen to myself and my wife, we're not putting our daughter in a situation where she just gets a big lump sum, or also my nephews and my mother and everybody else that I financially support, that they're just getting money outright and they're just blowing it. This is about building generational wealth. So in having a will and having trust, there's going to be language in there that says that you can only get access to certain funds if certain accomplishments happen. And so these are the steps that I'm taking personally in order to prepare my family for, making sure that they're going to be financially sound, both now and if, I didn't come home today.
Yeah, let me build on. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just want to piggyback off of what Joseph said. I think the goal is just to be proactive, right? And I think a lot of what Joseph just shared is getting ahead of things, right? And actually planning, right? And preparing for the future. And I think that, children, young men, young women, they see everything that we do as parents, like everything. They hear every discussion. And to the extent that we want our children to model themselves after us, then we have to set a proper example with respect to all things that they come in contact with, i.e. financial responsibility, right? And understanding, my biggest thing for me growing up, I was extremely materialistic, right? Like if I could get a new pair of sneakers, I was happy, right? If we can go get those sneakers, I remember one time I was on punishment. And my mother, only 16 years older than me, and my father not being present at all. I've actually never met my father. We went to her, and rather than sneakers I wanted, she bought me another pair of sneakers, as if that was some type of punishment for me, right? But that is what I equated being happy to, right? Material things. And having a 17-year-old, it is baffling to me how my son is the exact opposite. He literally, I have to beg him to take him shopping. Like, let me go get you a couple of items, right? But it's really refreshing. And yes, he is a product of the World of Money Institute. You know, he has participated 2 summers and was going to come back and teach this summer, you know, less than, you know, the pandemic. But, you know, him being able to actually see me mature, right? Because he's watched my evolution as well, right? Like, I don't have a problem going to buy sneakers, but I'm also, you know, putting money away. We're prepared for college. We were able to purchase him a car last year when he was 16, you know. But you have to plan for those things. And to be completely transparent with the panel and all those that are viewing, I wish that I was being more financially savvy and more financially responsible at a younger age, right? I mean, I really started taking things serious midway through my son being in middle school, right? Whereas I knew these things prior to. And prior to taking my job, you know, and of course I worked on Wall Street for a number of years before transition, becoming a finance attorney. But learning about all the investment vehicles that were out there, right? And what smart people actually do with their disposable income, very different than the values that I kind of picked up along the way, right? And I had to actually change my thinking and reprogram myself to understand, like, what was going to put me and my family in the best financial situation moving forward, right? Is it having or the newest, you know, Ferragamo shoe? Or is it actually taking that money, putting it somewhere where it was going to grow, right? So again, just to circle back and speak to what Joseph kind of shared with us, it's all about being proactive, right? And leading by example.
Hey, can I just add one real quick thing to that? Because I think Duan and Joseph really hit on some major points around the planning and being proactive. I also think that we in our community have to think about that intergenerational wealth transfer for the long run, where it's not just building wealth for you to be able to put your children through college and for you to retire, but how do you now set it up where your children's children, you've got their education, their homes, and their prosperity set so they can build the wealth and then pass that on to others. And Joseph mentioned a lot of different tactics to be able to do that. You got trust, you got the 529s, but the mindset of me being done with my financial responsibility as long as my kids can go to school and then I can retire, we've got to, I think, change that. We got to make sure that we're pushing forward because that all stops, you know, and I think our community, we would invest a lot. You'd own your house, then to give it to the kids would sell the house, the money's gone right there in that generation. How do you protect that money and pass it forward for future generations so you truly build generational wealth? That's what we need to start focusing on in our community. There's so many tactics to be able to do that, but the mindset has to shift as well.
Say it.
Yeah, and that's the part that I wanted to address. And that's why I love the concept of the world of money, because it really begins with us understanding how money works in the world and understanding our historical relationship with money. We came over as property. We were brought over as property. So in this capitalistic society, we were a product. And that is, in my view, had us have this fascination with products, which, as the person before was saying, gets us into this need for materialism. But if you understand how money works and you understand the stages of money, accumulation, preservation, and legacy, as Barry was just talking about, the last piece only happens if you have those first two pieces in place, the legacy, the ability to be able to sustain. We don't talk about wealth creation in our community. People talk to us about everything else. They talk about our health, they talk about crime, but they don't talk about wealth accumulation. The reason America is the most prosperous country in the world is because of Black people, because we were used as a tool for them to accumulate wealth. So we have to understand that how money works. For example, my son has been in a investment club since he was 5 years old, called a Good Sense Kids Club. So they invest real money in stocks. They've got a portfolio that is probably up about 200%. So from a very young age, he understands how money works. And that's just one vehicle. But we also got to talk about entrepreneurship, because that's one of the things when you look at it historically as a people, when we were most successful. You know, we just had Juneteenth yesterday and, you know, the celebration of Black Wall Street, all of that. That's when we were most successful as a people, is when we were focused on entrepreneurship. So it's not just about having a job. A job is great, but a job only creates income. It does not create wealth. Very few people get rich working for somebody else. It is possible, but the vast majority of wealth is created through enterprise and through some kind of liquidity event. So we got to begin to understand that we need to understand how private equity works. All of these things, you're talking about just saving and investing. That's the tip of the iceberg. But you got to start understanding how money works in society and how the rich get wealthy. It's not just about trust and estates. It's also about mergers and acquisitions. It's also about private equity. And private equity, for the most part, doesn't invest in our ventures. So we have to look at social impact capital and looking at how we can rebuild our communities and how we can invest in our communities. 90% of Black businesses are solopreneurs. So that means that it's one person that's running that business. It is literally impossible to sell a solo enterprise. So you can't create wealth that way, because if you are an entrepreneur and you just have yourself as your own employee, nobody's going to buy that business, because once you stop, the business stops. So you can't scale that business. And most entrepreneurs don't have a 401k or investment. Is really a lifestyle business. So we got to look at how we can begin to scale our businesses so that we can employ more people, and then also create wealth and create legacies that can go beyond the generation that we're in.
Yeah, just a quick fact, just so you know, to Robert's point, Black entrepreneurs, their wealth is 12 times higher than the median of non-Black entrepreneurs. So absolutely right. You got to be able to diversify in terms of that wealth generation and creation.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah, excellent. And just jumping in for a second. Can you speak to the importance of having financial compatibility with your spouse or a significant other when plotting, this path forward that so many of you have spoke to just now?
I can start off. Robert's words and Barry's words and Joseph's words and Dee's words of all resonating with me. I might be the youngest one here. But for me, I started, I'm an MC, and learning from my dad, I'm able to kind of maneuver, monies around. When I met my wife, she was working in Connecticut, and I encouraged her to become an entrepreneur, become someone who can diversify her talents to not just be someone who is working for someone else and making them a little bit more rich. So we've been constantly improving her status in terms of money and wealth, and as well as building up her credit, so she is able to be this equal partner with me in this journey to becoming a financial partnership with two gurus, just creating content and wealth for our child. I think it's imperative for us as Black men to constantly encourage our partners to learn about finance and try to get them to a higher plane of thinking when it comes to finance and trying to build that wealth in that sense.
Yeah, the single biggest financial decision that you will ever make is who you marry. There is no other financial decision that will have as much impact on your life as your spouse. So if you don't have somebody who is rowing in the same direction as you are, it makes it exceedingly difficult to be successful financially. And that's one of the things, again, that as a people, we have to recognize is that, and I hate the term financial literacy, because Black folks are very literate when it comes to finances. We have not been financially included. Most of us know how to stretch, budget, make a dollar holla better than anybody that I've ever seen. So we're not financially illiterate. We just not have been financially included into the largesse of this society. So we have not been exposed to all of the tools and resources that others have. So to that end, not only must you have a spouse that is on the same page, you got to include them in whatever that plan is and make them have and allow them to have buy-in and learn from them, because there's numerous studies that show that women are better money managers than men. They get better financial results because we tend to be more aggressive. We tend to go off gut, and we'll do stuff just out of stubbornness, whereas women are a lot more rational when it comes to money than men are. And most women make a lot of the financial decisions in the household because that's just the way the dynamic works. And Black women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, period. They're the only group there are more Black women entrepreneurs than there are Black men entrepreneurs. So sisters, it pays to listen to sisters because they're killing it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can add a little bit to that. This will be 6 years and my wife and I will be married coming up, which is the same month that our daughter is going to be born. So it'll be a great August. And my wife is a high-level director at a major accounting firm here in New York. So she is my equal as it relates to the financial aspects of the household. But she doesn't do financial planning as part of her job. So by default, there are some things that she just doesn't know, even though she's in an accounting, role. So I'm having conversations with her about the fact of, we as two, individuals of color, we're in a financial situation where we want to just start thinking about going forward in the future, not only investing in things like our 401k and investing in, your typical stocks and bonds, but we want to start to thinking about investing in, small Black-owned businesses to get some additional growth and revenue outside of just like our normal jobs. Because as we've seen from this pandemic, you could be a professional, and if something like this happens and your job decides to furlough you or cut your pay, you could have as many degrees as possible, and there could be issues in the household if you don't plan for things like that. So I'm talking to my wife about the fact of, we want to make sure that we're investing and that we're investing in things, hopefully in the future around real estate and just building up our net worth outside of just some of the traditional things that we tend to invest in as people. And I'm also talking to my wife about the fact that, it's okay to be conservative with your money, but sometimes you do have to take a little bit of risk if this is going to be money that you're not going to need to touch for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So we're definitely both aligned, and I hope to have a lot of success, both between us and our daughter and raising her around all these different things.
Yeah, no, I think that's excellent. And you guys touched on so many great points, but I think one of them that really struck a chord with me in that conversation about the intergenerational transfer of wealth. You can do all the smart things in the world to build wealth, have wealth to transfer. But if you don't have the folks who are going to inherit this wealth, if they're not smart about money, if they don't understand how money works, as my father used to say on many occasions, it won't take long for someone who's not financially savvy, understands money, who comes into money, it won't take long for them to part ways.
Absolutely.
So it kind of lends itself to this other discussion about our youth and making sure that we're giving them this kind of information so that as we're doing all these great things that we're discussing, they're in a position to be able to do something, with that wealth that we've accumulated for them. Any thoughts on that?
Darren, can I jump in really quickly?
Please.
I just want to kind of circle back to the last segment, very, very briefly. I know that we have a number of people that are viewing this, and we have a number of questions going on in chats. But I kind of wanted to get, because I'm not married, right? So I'm not married. And for the gentlemen like Joseph and, Robert, Mikey, like you guys are discussing, how important it is for the right partner, right? At what stage in your relationship did you start having these conversations about finances? Because I think that's very important. I want to roll the dice and say that many of you didn't wait until you were 5 years into your marriage to talk about finances. So I'm gonna say that maybe this took place during the dating and courting stages. But what were some of the red flags or some of the things that you guys used to kind of figure out if in fact you guys were equally yoked with respect to financial planning, financial services, and wealth building?
Hey, so I'll get started here. You're absolutely right. You have to have these conversations well before you actually get engaged and long before the marriage to ensure that you are on the same page. You've got the same objectives in terms of, what is the value of money to you? What is the purpose of money to you? And what do you feel about family? And again, as we talked about that generational wealth transfer. So a lot of those conversations absolutely have to happen. And the other thing I think that Darren said that's really important is as you build money and you go through the accumulation phase, you also have to recognize you have to continue to have these conversations because they evolve, which is the most important time. Because once you get money, what do you do with it? And you could have different opinions and perspectives on that once that actually happens. And unfortunately, we've seen too many people squander away that money, or they don't make that money work for them and earn more. So those conversations and that education is an evolution. So by no means will I tell you that the conversations that you have in the dating phase will solidify that you're going to have a partner and you are on the same page with your wealth creation for the long term. It is a continuous conversation as you flow through every stage of money that you have to refine, work through, find a happy medium and a balance, right? Because it can't always be your way and your decision, because that's always bound to fail. It has to be a happy compromise, but you have to be focused on that common objective. And it's a family conversation. You really do need to make sure that you're bringing your kids in early into these conversations. You are talking about it on a regular basis in a positive and constructive way, because I think that's how everyone learns. That intellectual curiosity starts to grow, and you start to just expand the ability for the family to succeed.
Definitely. Yeah, the only thing I would just add real quickly is that those conversations happen probably sooner than you think, because again, women are much smarter than us. So as you're dating, they're evaluating you from a financial perspective, like straight off the bat.
Oh yeah.
Not like a gold digger's perspective, but they're looking at how you get down. I mean, they're looking at, what kind of, can you pay for this meal? So there's a lot of tales that you have.
Build with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They can build with.
Exactly. So I think, as I can only speak for me, you are all educated brothers on the phone, but on the call. But I know when I first started dating, when I was single, men are attracted by looks. We don't necessarily delve much deeper than that until much later into the relationship. But as you get more mature, you figure out that you need to start having some of those conversations around goals and aspirations, and then you begin to get a framework of what that person's orientation is, and then you can color in the lines. But if your overall goals are like, if your dreams scare her, then that's probably not the right person for you, because that her role is to help you accomplish those dreams, not to tamp them down. And your goal is to help her accomplish her dreams and not to tamp them down, so that you guys support each other and you lift as you climb. Because sometimes she's going to be better at something, and sometimes you're going to be better, and you guys got to be able to find a medium where you're not competitive, but you're cooperative and supportive. Because a lot of us date type A women, and that's they got a lot of opinions and a lot of information, and you got to be able to handle that. You got to be able to support them like you want them to support you.
Amen. I would say at this point, and then I definitely want to keep the conversation going, but we're going to have a video of Kyron Gibson having a money conversation with his 8-year-old son, King. I think you'll be very entertained by this.
Money, and you can't be no sucker out here with your money.
Bro, I ain't no sucker. Bet you I don't.
Okay, what's assets?
Assets are things that bring money into your bank account.
What's liabilities?
Liabilities are things that take money out your bank account.
Entrepreneurship is the act of becoming an entrepreneur. What's entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a process of setting up a business or businesses.
Taking on a greater than normal
financial risk.
What's an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a person that organizes and operates a business or businesses.
Also taking on a greater than normal
financial risk.
What's financial mean?
Money.
And what's risk mean?
Chance.
Come on. What does it mean to own stock?
when you own a share of a company.
Come on. What's real estate investing?
Real estate investing is when you invest in a immovable property.
What's the two types of real estates?
Commercial real estate and residential real estate.
What's commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is property for businesses and workspace, like an office, store, or land.
And what's residential real estate?
Property to live on, like a house, apartment, or condominium.
Come on. It comes with extra fees when you have real estate, you feel me? Daddy tells you how many times he pays his state property tax a year.
Once a year.
What's the type of maintenance fee?
Cutting grass.
Come on. What's HOA?
Homeowner association.
And what comes along with that?
HOA fee.
Come on. And when it comes to the brokerage percent, what percent is that?
7.
Come on. What's equity?
Equity is the difference between what your business is worth minus what you owe on it.
Also assets minus?
Liabilities and debt.
Good job. What's credit report?
Credit report is like a report card letting you know how well you did by paying your money back you borrowed.
And how does credit affect your life?
The better you keep your credit, the more opportunities you will have to get funding.
And what? Large purchases like?
A car or a house.
Come on. And always repay what you
owe.
Because if you owe somebody, that means you're in
debt.
And you never want to be in
debt.
Because that means you
owe somebody.
And we don't never owe
somebody.
Because that ain't what suckers do, period. Come on.
Yeah, man.
I'm done. I'm checked out.
Is there anything left for us to say, guys?
Let me log out. Let me log out. Come on now.
Oh, that was amazing.
You should be teaching that world of money. You better call him, Sabrina. Not the daddy,
in my
the boy.
20s, I couldn't have answered half those questions.
Sabrina got to hire the boy, not even the father, man.
That's right. One of the questions that came in on the chat, someone wanted us to provide some examples of how we are building generational wealth.
Whew. Well, I can start this one off again. Generational wealth. I've learned, I took the same route that Joseph has taken in terms of when my son was here. I started to just delve into even more and more and more financial things to accumulate wealth. One of the things that I learned about, obviously, was the stock market. But, for those that know, the stock market can be very risky. So, I started doing research on index mutual funds and how to just kind of leave your money in these places, and also just real estate. And my dad is teaching me, he has 3 properties currently right now. And when I buy my new home, he's going to purchase another property, and he's going to leave these homes to me and my sister. So we continuously, keep building up this generational wealth. Being an entrepreneur as well, I've invested in a couple of companies. One being, which is crazy that I'm on this call. One is Kitty Credit. I own some stock and some shares in Kitty Credit. And I'm also one of the faces of this Black-owned app teaching children from the ages of 8 up until 14 about the perils and the wiles of credit. And we're currently in the process of partnering with Equifax and TransUnion for this app to teach kids, particularly of color, about credit. But instead of, the normal things of, credit cards and things like that, we do it as chores. So for parents, they have the app, and then their children have the app. So basically, like, if I tell my son, you got to clean up these dishes today. If he doesn't do the dishes, it's a negative report on his account. The same way it would be for our credit reports. And if he wants something, it all depends on what he's done in terms of the chores. So if he keeps asking for new video games or new clothing or anything, it will directly impact his credit report. So by investing in this company, it not only kind of teaches young children about credit, but it also is, partnering with a company that I believe in, that I can also, sell my shares to my son. And last but not least, my son and my wife are benefactors, on my publishing when it comes to music. So I've been making money off of my music since 2006, residual income that comes in once a month. If something was to ever happen to me, my son and my wife would be the benefactors to this money that constantly comes in and basically pays all of the bills every single month. And the more I create, the more content that I create in this new evolving way of life when it comes to streaming and digitized content, the more money will obviously be coming in, and taking that money and reinvesting and trying to do the smart things when it comes to money. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, I would just add to Mickey. I think Mickey's doing all the right things. Number one, diversification is the key, right? So making sure that you've got different streams of income. I love the fact that he's investing in some different private opportunities, and then some of the real estate. I think those are all the traditional ways the market to earn. The only thing that I would add for people to think about is also debt and debt reduction. Because if you think about it, the interest rates that you pay on your mortgage, whether it's 3%, 4%, 5%, or credit cards, sometimes up to 10%, 20%, if you reduce that debt to zero and you minimize the debt that you carry, those are all rates of return as well, because you're not putting out that additional expense. So think about just the mathematics of it all. If I'm paying, 20%, 15%, 3% on large amounts of money, that's income and money and monetary flow out. Reducing that debt is the same thing as earning that money on other assets. So there's two sides to that pendulum. You always want to make sure that you're putting your money to work, but you want to minimize your debt as well on the road to wealth creation.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple other quick things. I mean, in addition to all of that was said, the other things that I've invested in or am invested in to create generational wealth. Franchises. I own a franchise. Invested in some other businesses, particularly black-owned businesses. I have my own company that I plan to leave to my kids. And then other things that I think folks often overlook are collectibles. So Black art in particular, I've invested a lot in Black art and other collectibles. One of the things that people may not recognize is that art has outpaced, if you buy the right art, it has outpaced the S&P by 200%. Jay-Z even was rapping about, I was listening to it the other night, and he talked about, I bought this paper for $1 million. Now it's worth $2 million. If I leave it to my kids, it's worth $10 million. If you understand the market and understand the right things to invest in, collectibles are a very lucrative investment, and a lot of Black art you can get. I'm living here in Chicago in Bronzeville. There's a Black artist that sold a painting for $1 million that lives right down the street from me. But a lot of people don't know about our market, and there's an opportunity for us to capitalize on that, particularly given what's going on in the country now. Black art is about to be real hot. So a little stock tip, a little tip for you guys now. Look at Black art and Black businesses investing in right now.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that, Darren, really quickly. So everything that everyone mentioned was great. These are all great tools to build wealth. And I would take it just like one step even before getting to the point of that, is that for the young men that are listening to this, if you don't know what's going on in your household around the financial picture, start to ask questions of your parents. How much does it cost to live here? How much are you making? How much is left over to pay the bills? When you give me money, what are some tips that I can do to make sure that I'm saving? So, and this is also for the men that are listening, start to have this dialogue with your kids now, because what I've learned in being involved with World of Money since 2008 is that kids can pick this stuff up even as young as 5, 6, 7 years old, and we have to start having these conversations now. We have to understand where our money is going every day. And I think I shared, Sabrina, if you can share with the audience, I sent the budget worksheet out, and before you can start building wealth, you want to make sure that your short-term reserves are okay. And what I mean by that is that if you lost your job or if you got hurt and you couldn't work, you don't want to be in a position where you might have to sell a real estate investment in a down market or sell your stock investments. And you want to have some savings in the bank to make sure that you can pay your bills from anywhere between 3 to 6 months. You want to make sure you have the right amount of life insurance if you didn't come home. You want to make sure you have things like disability coverage if you didn't get hurt, if you got hurt or sick and you couldn't work. And once you have those foundational things set up, now you can start to talk about building wealth through all these different vehicles, whether it be investing in the market, real estate, private investment, art, and different things. So the foundation and the conversation that we need to start having is key.
Fantastic. Another question that I wanted to pose to the group, and I want to start with Dewan on this one and then expand out to the panel. With everything that's going on currently, we've been hearing references to so many conversations about the talk that Black parents need to have with their children about how to navigate and move in this society and to be safe, as they go about their lives. So I'd like to take a different twist on that question. And what does the talk look like with your children from a financial perspective, from a wealth building perspective? What are the key things that you are trying to, or that you intend to try to have in terms of discussions with them about those particular areas?
So for me, my son is, and we're having a conversation about college and what his interests are and what he wants to study in college, and he doesn't know, right? He's up in the air, right? Which I explained to him over and over again is not abnormal. It's okay that you don't know. But then I asked him, well, what do you want your life to look like? Right? Like, what do you want your life to look like? Because you have to understand that happiness for everyone looks different, right? You may ultimately want to own a private jet and have a boat, or you could want to be home at 3 o'clock every single day, pick your kids up from school, drop them off at practice, and be at the table by 6:30 every single night with you, your children, and your wife, right? Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in a very, very metropolitan area? Do you want to live in the suburbs, right? Like, so once you start having these type of conversations, right, then we can start to kind of dial it back. How do we get there? Like, what does that look like? How do we graduate from college with the least amount of debt possible, right? So that you're not forced to get a certain type of job, right? And really trying to get my son, as well as my nephew at this point, to understand that you have to change your thought process. Like, think about what it is that you want. Be a creative, right? We don't have to work for anyone. You don't.
Yeah.
Like, we've been so conditioned to go to schools, get these, and now not even just go to undergrad. It's like go to professional school as well, right? And then you get these degrees and then else, right? You're not going to be forced to do that. I want you to take the time to figure out like what you're passionate about, because what you're passionate about will bring you happiness. So with respect to finances, right? And I know I'm off on a bit of a tangent, but I had to give you like the whole picture. My son watches how I teach at World of Money, right? He understands that I'm a finance attorney, and he's always asking questions. He wants to know what I'm doing. He wants to know what the deal is. Like, Dad, he called me, he texted me yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And he was like, are you on a call? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not on a call. What's going on? He said, well, you're usually like on a call this time, or you probably have a deal closing, right? Like, that's his thought process. He doesn't really know what that means, but he sees me, right? And I think that is the silver lining in this pandemic, right? That I'm able to like be in the house, and he's able to see like what my morning look like, what my evenings look like, and what my days look like, and that way that I engage with people on phone conversations, right? So when you start hearing about millions and millions of dollars in these deals, right, it's like, wait a minute, okay, well, let's dial it back. Let's talk about how this company was able to borrow this money from this bank, and why this bank was comfortable enough to lend this company $50 million, right? Or why there's $300 million going to one company in a syndicated deal with a number of different banks. Like, why do these banks find so much comfort in this one company, right? And then you start to say, okay, well, no one's giving you that type of money for nothing.
Yeah.
Typically, we got to put up some collateral, right? There's got to be assets that are going to secure these loans, right? So like, as we start talking about what I actually do, right? And I can speak to that because I do it every day. It opens his to so many different ways that people can make money. Now, I'll tell you this about myself. Like, I played basketball all through high school, basketball all through college, right? I thought basketball was going to be my ticket, right? I always did well academically, not because, I was just a genius, but because things were really easy. But I always thought basketball was going to be my ticket. I became a lawyer because all I knew was lawyer, doctor, entertainer. That's it. I thought I was funny, but I'm not that funny. I wasn't athletic enough to be a professional athlete. And I hadn't had the schooling or the tutelage to be a doctor. So I'm like, wow, they said I could go to law school if I just take this one exam. So I took and now I have like a nephew who wants to be a lawyer because I'm a lawyer. And then I have to have a conversation with him to say, hey, why do you want to be a lawyer? oh, because lawyers make money. There's a lot of poor lawyers, let's be clear. Tons of poor attorneys. Actually, the vast majority of attorneys don't make good money. They're extremely, it's a high stress job, have high student loan debt, and they make very little income pro rata with respect to what they owe. So if you're going into because you want to make money, that's not the reason to go into law. Let's talk about it, because I am up at 2:30 in the morning because a client has asked me to draft something on behalf. Do you want to be the attorney that's doing the drafting, or you want to be the client that's able to pay me to do the work at 2:30 in the morning, right? As we start thinking about what we want our lives to look like, right, and what type of work will make us happy, I tend to back our way into how we get to that point. And I mean, we don't just talk about investing in life insurance policies, although I think that's a great investment because that's the one thing that you know is going to happen, is that we're all going to pass away at some point. But I want to talk about like how we get out of college without having any debt. How do we go to grad school without having any debt? Because those are the building blocks that hinder most people in our communities, because when we graduate, it's like, I got to take this job because I have to pay this debt.
Talk about it.
But this panel is intelligent enough, well-versed enough, and worldly enough to know that our kids won't have to experience what we experience.
Talk about it.
Go ahead.
But I digress, and I'll allow another panelist to
talk about it. D, talk about it, brother.
Hey, brother, I'm feeling it.
So that talk, I'll be real quick. That talk for me looks like some financial education. Going back to the concept of World of Money, I always recommend 3 books for anybody. You know, the problem with quote financial literacy and trying to provide financial education is there's so much noise out there that people don't really know what to do. They get confused and they're like, what should I do? And I try to separate products from practice, and the sort of praxis from praxis. So praxis is the theory, practice is what you actually do. So you have to have a theory of money before you can understand what it is that you need to do. So I always recommend with my kids, I made all of them read it, and anybody who asks me financial and wants to spend some time with me, like, go read these books first, because you're not going to understand where I'm coming from until you understand this. The first one is Think and Grow Rich. The second one is The Wealthy Barber. The third one is The Richest Man in Babylon. And the fourth one is Solomon's Secrets. If you don't, to me, all you need to know about money is contained in those 4 books. There's another one that I just started reading, which is super dope, but I had to give it Tony Robbins, the Money Master the Game. It has a lot more contextualized information for today's. But these books are all written in very layman's terms. They don't have a whole lot of the jargon, but they talk about the philosophy of money and give you some principles, so that no matter what flashy product somebody comes out with or what flashy idea, it boils down to what the brother was just saying in the video with his kid. Don't owe people. Don't make work your best friend. I mean, there's some principles that will guide you and serve you well, and then it'll give you the foundation. Just like the talk with telling your kids to, keep 2 hands on the steering wheel and don't make no sudden movement. They're just that powerful in terms of, if we can embed those principles in our kids, it'll give them a foundation and they can figure out where they need to go based upon what my man just said, what kind of life you want to live. But you need these principles to get you there regardless of where it is you want to go.
Can you share those books one more time for someone who may not got all 4?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Wealthy Barber, The Richest Man in Babylon, and Solomon's Secrets.
Excellent.
Hey, can I share just one final thought on that?
Please.
Sessions like this, talk to people, right? Because again, knowledge is power, and all of this great advice and guidance that we're getting just talking to each other, we're learning from each other. So seek to join groups like World of Money. I know at JP Morgan Chase, every Thursday at a branch, you can learn about financial education and literacy in a Chase chat. You can go online and see that. But join groups where you're talking about money and you're talking about these ideals and you're getting sound guidance and thoughts on where to move forward. Because I think sometimes it's intimidating. People think, hey, I got to do this all by myself, or I'm going to read the book and where do I go from here? But there's so much power in bringing groups together and having the conversation and the dialogue, just like we're doing today. We need to continue to do that in multiple forums, and that can start as early as you want. It's never too early to start talking about this with kids and bringing them together. So I would definitely look at trying to find those groups and forums where you can have the conversation.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I was just going to say real quick. Also, obviously my son is 4.5 months old. Consider the future. And that's just the piggyback off of what Barry, D, and Robert has added to the chat. We have to look at the world that it's going to change eventually. My dad was writing a book about, how to find rare videotapes and how to find the movies that you want to find. And over the course of 20 to 30 years, he had to considerably and constantly edit this book that he never released because technology constantly and consistently changed. So I think, having a conversation with knowing and trying at least to attempt to predict what may be happening in the future, because as Dewan so beautifully and eloquently stated, college is a great thing, but if you're coming out of college in debt, it's a bad thing. And a lot of people sometimes, they're creating these products and these things where they become multimillionaires and some of them even billionaires. So, the answer sometimes can be college, and the answer sometimes can be within yourself. So just believe in yourself and continue to grow. And one final point, shout out to Robert about Black art. I got my man Stevie Wonder over there. I purchased some Black art from my guy 10 years ago, Belchez, and he is currently, one of the fastest selling painters in New York City right now. So, I'm glad to be a part of this, man, just to hear, that there are because being an MC and hip hop, we all know the tropes, the negative tropes that come along with being, a Black hip hop artist. You got to have the gaudy chains, you have to have the expensive cars and the women and the drug usage. But to hear brothers, with like-minded minds that are not in the hip hop community, but are, but still understand the hip hop community and understand finance, it's heartwarming for me. It's a little emotional. So I'm glad that I'm on the right path, and I appreciate all of you brothers.
Can I say something really quickly just to some of my mentees that might be listening that are in high school and just thinking about college and if it's even an option? So for me, I grew up in the projects in the Bronx. My mom made minimum wage, and I love my mom so much because my mom had to go back and get her GED. And a lot of parents take the approach of like, if I didn't accomplish something, then I'm not going to force, my child to do that. And my mom was like, you're smart, you're going to college. Like, it's just something that's going to put you in a better position. And if it wasn't for my mother, I don't know where I would be today for, pushing that, on me, because she saw it in me that I could be a success. And for someone that came from the projects in the Bronx, single parent household, low income, I was able to go to college through a program that I was able to get in. And after my first semester, because I did so well with my GPA, I ended up getting a full ride for the rest of my college years, and actually ended up graduating from college without any loans based on academics and not sports, even though I did play basketball. So this is to the young men that might be thinking that, I want to go to college, but it may not be an option. If you academically do well and you're a man of color, there is going to be money out there for you and scholarships that can probably get you through. And if not that, and you're successful, ask for donations for people, make a video, tell people what you want to be in life, and I guarantee you that money will flow in for you. So, don't just stop because you come from a bad neighborhood and you think that, you can't be a success, because I'm the living example of that.
Oh, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, hey, I am too. I'll piggyback on that. I mean, I grew up in Fort Heights, which is one of the poorest suburbs in the nation. So, I think the average median income there is like $4,000 or something. I mean, it's crazy. But so it really, I tell people I could teach anybody how to be successful. Being successful is making the right choices consistently. Being unsuccessful is making the wrong choices consistently. So it's all about the choices that you make. And it's never, and I adopted the approach early in life that it's not over until I win. So I never lose. I've never lost because it's never over until I win. So from that standpoint, you have the opportunity to achieve whatever. I'm first generation everything. So first generation college, first generation law school, first generation, corporate America, first millionaire in my family, first multimillionaire in my family, probably in our entire clan. So
I think multimillionaire. I think we family. You got to be like my cousin.
but I mean, that message, and I think people need to hear where we come from, because oftentimes I sit on these panels and they look at where you arrived at, but it ain't where you arrived at. Everybody's got a story. And one of the things about, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, a lot of Black men are not vulnerable. I mean, I've made a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money too. All of this smart stuff you heard, it came from some dumb stuff that I've done.
Amen.
I mean, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, it is what it is, but you keep it moving. Right. So nobody on this panel is perfect. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, we've all done some things that we wish we could take back. So, but the thing is, as Black men and as men of color, we got to reach out. If you got a question, or if you got a need, or we got to get past that, hoarding of information, and we got to be more collaborative and more supportive. And if I know something, I'm duty bound to share with you. And like I said, if I see you going left when I think you should go right, I'm gonna tell you. Now, at the end of the day, you do what you want to do, but I'm gonna tell you, bro, that ain't gonna be a good look for you. And we have to do that for each other. We got to check each other. I mean, I could get on the phone in 10 minutes and I can give 15, 20 cash to go do something stupid, or mindless. But trying to get 15, 20 cash to do this, hard. So give yourself credit for all of you that are on the phone, that are watching this or participating in this town hall, because you've made a decision to improve yourself. There's a lot of people out there that are just dialing it in, and they're not putting forth the effort. Like I said, it goes back to choices. You can choose to be successful or choose not to be successful. And the last thing that I'll say, because I grew up poor, I have a big the secret to my success is visioning. What I used to do was I would go to wealthier neighborhoods and go to like the houses of, they have open houses. You can go look in anybody's house and see what, see how the other half live. And that would be my vision of what I wanted my life to be. And when I was in college on Saturdays when my roommate was gone, I would lay on the floor, listen to jazz, eat pizza, and envision what my life would be. Flipping through GQs, I know how I wanted to dress. Michael Jordan talked about visioning as being the reason why he was so successful. He would envision himself taking that last second shot and hitting it and winning the game. And when it came time to do it in the game, he had already been there in his mind, because your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and what you envision. So your body, your actions will begin to mirror what it is that you see. It's all about affirmation. That's why what you tell yourself every morning, I am, is invoking the name of God. I am is Yahweh. So I am rich. The universe doesn't know that you're not rich. It will bring things to you that begin to get you into that positioning. If you say, I am broke, same thing. It will begin to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it all begins with how you see yourself and how you describe yourself and how you brand yourself.
Thank you so much. This time has gone by so fast. I mean, I've learned so much. I really appreciate everything that all of you brothers have shared and all the great work that you do. And for everyone who joined us today, thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Sabrina, and we're going to be wrapping up very soon. Thanks, guys.
So proud of you, special dads. Yay! So thank you so much for a brilliant panel. You definitely the vision of what we had hoped for and more. Getting amazing feedback from all around the country. Thank you. This is going to be rebroadcast. But before we go, because we always at World of Money want to remind you of the power that you have in your hands. So we're going to end. I'm going to thank everyone individually, but before or as we end, watch this video, this historic classic video to remind you of what's in your hands. So thank you, Barry Simmons from Los Angeles, JP Morgan Chase, Dewan Neal from Atlanta, New York, because he's everywhere. And then Mr. Joseph Edmonds represent the Bronx, Mickey Fax from the world.
Yes, baby.
Yeah, I'm from the Bronx too, baby. You know how I go.
Yes, baby, all day. We everywhere.
What's good?
Robert Johnson from the Chai. Thank you so much, Robert Johnson. Definitely, everyone has just been really, really amazing. So before we go, before we sign off, please check out this. And Darren, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Darren, man.
My honor.
Appreciate you, Darren.
Great job, man.
You gentlemen were wonderful. Thank you so much.
A young slave boy stood one day before the greatest ruler of his day. And God said to Moses, "What's in your hand?" And Moses said, "Lord, only I've got a stick, that's all." He said, "Well, let me use what's in your hand." And God used that slave boy with a stick in his hand to divide the Red Seas, march through a wilderness, bring water out of rocks, manna from heaven, and bring his people to Freedom Land. What's in your hand? What's in your hand? George Washington Carver, who was so frail that he was traded for a broken-down horse as a slave boy. And George Washington Carver, sitting in the science laboratory at Tuskegee, told me, he said, "Dr. Powell," he said, "I just go out in the fields each morning at 5 o'clock, and I let God guide me. And I bring back these little things and work them over my laboratory." And that man did more to revolutionize the agricultural science of peanuts and of cotton and sweet potato than any other human being in the field of agricultural science. What's in your hand? Just let God use you, that's all. What's in your hand? I've got a string in my hand, that's all, and I'm flying a kite. And way up in the heavens, lightning strikes it. And I, Benjamin Franklin, discover for the first time the possibilities of electricity with a string in my hand. What's in your hand? Little hunchback sitting in a Roman jail. I haven't got anything in my hand but an old quill pen, but God says, "Write what I tell you to write." Paul wrote, "I have run my race with patience. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. Henceforth is laid up in me a What's in your hand, little boy? All I've got is a slingshot, and the enemies of my people are great and big and more numerous than we are. Well, little David, go down to the brook and pick out a few stones and come on back and close your eyes if you want to and pull back that slingshot and let it go." And David killed the biggest enemy, the leader of the giants, against his people, and his people became free, just letting God guide a stone in his hand. And a few years passed, and David is a king. And God says, "What's in your hand?" He said, "I've got a harp in my hand." He said, "Well, David, play on your harp." And he played, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Leadeth me beside still waters. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil." What's in your hand? What's in your hand? Man hanging on a cross. I've got 2 nails in my hand. Father, I stretch my hands to thee. No other help I know. If thou withdraws thyself from me, whither shall I go? And that man with 2 nails in his hand split history in half, BC and AD. And what's in your hand tonight, people of Cambridge? You've got God in your hand, and he'll let you win because he's on your side and one with God, always in the majority. So walk with him and talk with him and work with him and stick together and fight together. And with God's hand in your hand, the victory will be accomplished here sooner than you dreamed, sooner than you hoped, sooner than you prayed for, sooner than you imagined. Good night and God bless you.